Hey guys, we are living the authentic life, and we are here with the incredibly talented Houston, New York designer, Amir Taghi. We have known each other for well over 10 years.
Well over, yeah.
And I have seen your designs grow, and your style has, even from the time you were designing in high school, has been so classic that I'm still wearing pieces that I bought from you 10 years ago.
Yeah, I think the first one you bought was at Banu, my cousin's store.
Yes.
And I think that's how we met.
It was through Miriam. Yes. And you come from a family of clothiers. Is that the title?
Yeah, my grandfather came here and was like, came from Iran and wanted to open up a store for his sons. And so that's how it kind of all started. And I was immersed in the world of fashion from a young age. I remember going to the store when I was like 3 and being so interested in seeing what everyone was doing and all the fashion coming together.
And then you studied fashion in New York and in London.
I did.
So tell us, like, there are so many young people that say, I want to grow up and be a fashion designer.
Well, it's harder than you think.
Exactly.
Yeah, so get ready for the roller coaster of emotions. But yeah, I was very ambitious at a young age, I would say, and I was like, Mom and Dad, I'm going to have my own brand, and you're just going to support me, and that's it.
That's the we.
Exactly. And so they were always not hesitant because they supported me in every single way, but they were like cautious. They were like, a 15-year-old wants to open a fashion business? Like, that's a little weird. But okay, let's do it. So we did it. It was more of a hobby. Back then, I probably thought this was a really serious business, but looking back and now having a serious business, I was like, what was I doing? Those were crazy.
I kind of call them a side hustle.
Yeah, exactly.
It was something.
I was in high school on my laptop, like making orders and talking. At that time, we were working with David Peck, and he was producing the clothing, and I would be emailing instead of paying attention at math class and stuff.
At Episcopal High School. That's where Bella is.
So it all started there, and I do say, like, I look back and yes, I'm like, what was I designing then? Or I was so young, or this was a hobby, but I feel like I wouldn't be here if I didn't do that. You know, there's a reason for everything that you do, even if you don't know it then. So,
and every experience, I think even more so, the things we didn't get or that didn't go as expected, or that
most of the time it doesn't go as expected, you know.
That's what I say. I feel like I'm punting much more than I'm ever running with the ball. And I'm not a football girl, but
it's true though.
Like you think it's going to be all these great, but you're always like, oh, that didn't work. What are we going to do next? Oh, that didn't work. Okay, what are we going to do next?
Yeah, exactly. So I had like 4 collections in high school, and so we sold it to some amazing Houston ladies, including yourself. And then I was like, I can't not go to school. And I had dreamed of going to Parsons or Central St. Martin's. Those were like where the greats went, some like Tom Ford, Alexander McQueen. They went to these schools. And so I was like, if I want to live that life, I better do this too. So I went to school in London. I went to school there for 1 year and thought I was going to be going to school there for another 4. Life happened, and then I ended up changing schools and moving to New York, and have been there ever since, and going to Parsons. And so I ended up finishing my degree there. And, you know, whenever I first thought about college, I thought I was going to be in Europe and London and Paris. But then as an American, you realize that America's home. And even though it's so fabulous there, my family's here. So I ended up moving to New York. And I feel like the hustle in New York is a lot more than the hustle in London. And probably people will hate me for saying that, but I feel like...
No, I can feel that. And I haven't spent a lot of time in London.
Yeah, I feel like it's like the energy of like in New York, it's like work.
Because there is absolutely a different energy for Europeans than Americans.
Yeah, 1,000%. And I was like,
You were used to doing so much because you're in high school and running a business, and you're in school, and then you're
I was like
designing. And
so I like paused the brand for about like 3 or 4 years, and so I was like, I still want to be in a work environment. So as a freshman at Parsons, I was like, how am I going to get my internship? And internships weren't allowed for freshmen; they were only allowed for sophomore or like juniors and seniors. And I figured it out. I was like, I'm not going to get school credit. I'm just going to go work for free, and I don't regret any of it. That was where I was so happy. I loved working, and I loved being in that work environment constantly. So.
And who was that you worked with?
My first internship was with Monse. Or actually, my first
and I call
one.
it Mons, but it's
Monse, exactly.
And are they French?
No, they're actually it's a duo. So one half of the duo is Korean, and the other half is from Dominican Republic.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, they're the same designers that design Oscar. So they're the same duo, Laura and Fernando. Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
So that's
I
like
knew
their
you
own
worked
brand.
For,
Oscar. Yeah, and I did that even before I even went to school. I was interning at Oscar as a sophomore in high school. Yeah, I was there for like 3 months, thanks to Noelle Sakowitz, which is a Houston local, and she was the fabric director there. And so my dad was working with Laura Sweeney, who's her mom, and my parents were also friends with Robert Sakowitz. So I somehow managed my way in there, and so I got to work there when Oscar was still alive, which.
Wow.
So that was incredible because I feel like there's not that many of that generation that are still working, except for probably like Armani now. That's the only one.
And fabric manager, like I feel that's what makes Oscar, Carolina, like they're just, it's the fabrics.
The embroidery and all of that.
You've really, so to me that's a big part of your brand.
Yeah.
The fabric, the texture, the buttons, the accents.
1,000%. That's what whenever we design, that's like the first thing we do is go to all the fabric mills and choose our fabrics. And that kind of informs what the designs are going to look like. Because if the structure of the fabric can't do what you want it to do, then you can't make the piece that you want to make. So it all starts with the fabric.
Interesting. And so what would you physically do as an intern? Were you in the fabrics? Were you touching the buttons?
We did everything.
With the embroidery?
So like with the fashion internships, they make you do everything. There's like not one thing you don't do. Yes, you get coffee.
Yes.
You do all the rough work.
Yes.
But then at the same time, you are doing research. They send you to libraries. They send you to all these places to like pull all the research that you can pull for that specific inspiration they're looking for, or you're actually designing. They're like one of the projects that I remember most at that first internship was like they wanted like a jewel neckline for a caftan. They were like, can you come up with like 5 to 10 neckline ideas? And so you're doing all the beginning stages of the work. You're also making boards, you're putting all their fabric boards together, sketch boards, you're photocopying, you're doing every single thing around, like you're doing all of it.
But that's Malcolm Gladwell's 10,000 hours. He said to be an expert, it's 10,000 hours.
You have to do everything.
But you were able to get your 10,000 hours so much sooner than other people because you started so much sooner. And you invested all your time because you loved it.
Yeah, I loved all of it. I remember at Monse, whenever I interned there, you would work until like 1 or 2 in the morning, and you were immersed in it, you know. And with the smaller brands, you would do everything. You know, you would help with sales, you would help in market, you would design, you would help PR. Like with the smaller brands, the teams are smaller, and they maybe didn't have a intern for every department, so they were like, the design intern would help us do this and that. You would do everything. So it was amazing because now owning a business, I'm practically
still doing
everything.
Everything.
So,
I know. Like Rob was vacuuming this morning. That's his
you
thing.
do all of it.
Exactly.
So, but at the same time, like I'm so thankful of where the business has gone now that I have a full team that
Right,
I'm
they
able to
can
rely
support you.
on.
And do you take interns?
We do take interns.
I
so
love it.
Any interns want to intern for us in New York, they're always welcome too.
I love that. So, did you use some of those resources? Are there, let's talk
1,000%.
about, yes,
I was like,
you're like, let me add this to my black book.
exactly. I was always just like, at all the internships, I was like, what factories are there? Because Monse would develop in New York. So I would go to the factories, and then I would literally like write down all the factories that I worked with at these bigger companies.
Yes.
Or fabric manufacturers. I would take pictures of the headers that we would receive, because that was like my Rolodex whenever I wanted to relaunch my business. Whenever I was in high school designing, I had very small resources. I had one fabric manufacturer in New York that we bought silk from, and another one that we bought lace from, and those were the only resources that I had. But now living in New York, if I wanted to have my own brand again, I had to make a full new Rolodex. So I was like going to these fabric manufacturers and factories, and I was writing all the names of all the people, like putting their contacts in my phone, and that's how I got to know people in New York.
But I think that's like, you could take what you're expressing here and drop it into any category of business, and like that's what it takes to be successful. It's like to know every single facet of it.
No, exactly. It's all about the people that you know, and like if you want to make a good product, you have to know the best in that field. And so and working for other people, it's kind of in a way they're doing all the testing on their dime, and you're getting to reap the benefits of it, so
absolutely. And then what about like, you're looking in New York, but are there fabric mills in Europe? What's happening in China? Let's talk about like the different countries. Are you bringing things in from India? Like where?
Every country has their specific like specialty. So right now, like all the fabric manufacturers have like some sort of base in New York, because there's so many designers in New York, and they have like a little office.
Okay, so you don't have to go around the world to buy internationally.
No, so they have a representative, or they have their own office. Like for example, most of our fabrics now come from Italy. We work with about, I think, 10 manufacturers that work with Chanel, they work with Dior, they work with Oscar, they work with all the big people. And so we work with all of these not small, but they're like manufacturers that have representatives, and you go in, you see all the fabrics, and most times these representatives rep like 10 to 15 different fabric brands. So you go, and each one is like has their own specialty. So one brand would be special for cottons and poplins and cotton twills and trench coat materials, and another one would be like wools and suiting materials, and then another one would be specialty, so jacquards, and then so those are like what we mostly get in Italy, and then in France it's mostly like lace and guipures and things that are very delicate. There's also embroidery, but embroidery in France is very expensive.
Yes.
And so if we would want to work with them, our pieces would be like $20,000 to $30,000, which we can't afford. Yes. So we work with India, and India's quality of embroidery is as good as the French. And now we're working with this company called Marcel, and they recently were. LVMH has done they work with a lot of LVMH brands, and so they now pay living wages to all their employees, which is amazing. So
yes, because let's talk a little bit about like sustainable fabrics, and there's these buzzwords, and I'm certainly all about sustainability, being that we're vintage and pre-owned, and even when I worked for 22 years with my family business, I became a lead AP. So I believe in. But how is a fabric more sustainable than another fabric?
Well, it can be a couple different ways. It's like the first way is like the materials that you use in the fabrics, like recycled wools or recycled polyester or recycled, there's all of those things. Or it's also the way they're making it. You know, they're using less water, or most of the time it's like the water consumption that's really high. So they're recycling the water or using less of it. And then also like with embroidery, when you're making the embroidery, you're using the pattern piece. And so you're making it exactly you're not wasting the goods in essence, because you're making exactly what you want, exactly what you need. And so that's like the biggest way. And then also for fabrics for designers, it's like using old seasons prints or old seasons fabrics, or creating a core collection, so you're never wasting or not using that fabric. You can always bring it back. Another like colleague of another designer, what they do is like with their old prints, they weave it together to make other like designs, or they use it as patchwork, or you can do things like that too.
Well, like Hermes does the Petite H, which is their scraps they make into things. I was shopping them online the other day, and there's where you can order it and you don't even know what color is going to come in. For me, I'm
That's
like,
insane.
I don't know if I'm going to spend $2,000 for something that I have no idea what color I'm going to get.
Which is kind of fun though.
It is, yes.
Because it's like a little surprise. But yeah, there's all sorts of waste, because there's a lot of waste when it comes to fabric, you know.
Yes, so much. Exactly.
With these fabric mills, there's always minimums that you have to order.
Right. What about fair trade? Like, is that part of them not being child labor and getting fair wages? Is that the title that they use?
So I guess in essence it's the same thing, but in India, like this, because in India they don't really have that many laws when it comes to how much money that these people can make. There's not a
minimum wage there.
Yeah, there is, but I don't think
it's not
like
enforced.
Exactly. And so with this manufacturer, because they're working for like Loewe, Givenchy, the houses that LVMH owns, LVMH has forced them, they basically forced them to say, like, if we
buy from you, you're going to do it this way.
Yeah, exactly.
You're going to have a minimum wage. You're going to give fair.
You're going to give them what they deserve, and how they have to be able to live a life, you know, the workers. So it does, because a lot of there are some that still don't give minimum wages, and the price of the goods is a lot less.
Right.
But it's also training the consumer to know that too, you know, like
having it be a value that someone is willing to pay for that.
Exactly.
And the difference.
Because yes, like you can buy an embroidered skirt, let's say that's $1,000, and it's not the minimum wage of the workers are not getting minimum wage. So you have to train the client to know, like, we are paying minimum wage. So this skirt is not $1,000, it's $3,000, but you're also helping pay for these people that deserve a minimum wage, you know. So it's training the client to know that because you're paying for quality, there's a lot of things that go on in the back end.
You have an effect by what you buy. And I think that a financial effect is the greatest way to affect change.
Yeah.
Is what you spend money on and what you invest in and what you don't spend.
Like if you're buying Zara all the time, you're not paying, these people are probably making like $1, even less.
Exactly.
To make one piece of clothing. Whereas for us, we pay like the cost of one of our, let's say.
Your fabric costs more than the entire Zara dress.
Exactly.
Just the cost of the fabric alone.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like this season, we're using this fabric that Dior uses for all of their blazers, and it's like the most soft, luxurious fabric. But the cost of the fabric is just $90 per yard, and to make a jacket, it's like 3 to 4 yards of fabric. Wow. So that's almost $400 that you're just spending on fabric.
Exactly.
So you just have to understand that I'm not trying to rip you off, you know?
Right.
It's just the cost of the
value to it. Yes.
And most of our pieces are made now we're making a lot of pieces in Italy, and we're making obviously in New York as well. And so we have to give living wages in New York. And so there's a cost of that as well. So
absolutely. Okay, let's talk about your family overcame so much. They moved here when the Shah was, I guess.
They actually moved a little bit later.
Okay.
But they did overcome a lot. I feel like the country completely changed after the Shah was exiled. And yeah, it's insane because I remember my mom telling me stories of them moving to London because there was so much uncertainty. But my grandparents' whole lives were in Iran. They had nowhere else to go, you know.
Yes.
All their money was there, their businesses were there, their family was there. Like, it was hard for them to make the move to America or even Europe. But yeah, it was difficult. My dad's family, my uncles had, before the Shah had even left, were coming to the U.S. for education. So my dad went to Memorial High School. My uncles came to the U.S. for
And why
college.
Houston? Was there...
So my dad is the youngest.
Okay.
So my oldest uncle went to a college in Texas.
Okay.
And so Texas was, and all the other brothers came to Texas.
Yes.
So then my dad was like, I'm going to Texas. I guess I have no other option. But
Same for there's
Yeah.
a great group of Italian immigrants, specifically from Sicily, moved to Bryan College Station because there was farming and it was similar to the land
exactly.
that they knew. And so people would go as groups and as
Yeah.
family because family was so important.
Exactly. And if you didn't know anyone there, you were
Yeah, it was-
alone, you know.
Right.
I know like friends of my parents that didn't know anyone and they came to the U.S. for college and their parents were doctors and whatever, but they would come into the U.S. and this was new to them and they would like be sweeping like garbage or whatever at restaurants, you know. That was like their first job in the U.S. and now they're CEOs of oil companies. But like whenever you move from one place, it's completely different than the other. I couldn't even imagine doing it. But yeah, they moved then, and my mom came over for college. Her parents never ended up moving to the U.S. They were always in Iran, but my dad's family was all here, and so they got married here and grew their family. But my mom is going to Iran today, actually, and to visit her sisters. So.
Are you able to freely go back and forth?
I would say yes. I personally choose not to, just because I speak against the government, and you really just don't know what they're going to do. So I don't want to risk my life and the freedoms that I have in the U.S. to go back to somehow get.
Amen to that. I mean, this, but isn't that amazing? Like
Yeah.
that there's still places today.
Yeah, they can get you for
and so
talking.
that's why freedom of
speech.
speech
is
is
huge.
Hugely important.
No, they'll say you're a traitor against the government or make up some sort of something that.
Well, and with the Russian who was just killed for speaking out
Navalny.
against
Yeah, it's insane.
about Putin, that's still happening today in our world is pretty crazy. So you've done things to bring awareness. You created a beautiful dress that was actually worn by someone famous. Tell us about
the Empress of Iran. The people that were exiled wore it, which she is a huge muse of mine. If you go back into the 1970s and 60s, she was like, Iran at that time was at the peak, you know. They were well renowned in the world. It was a huge ally of the US, the huge ally of the UK, and so like Time magazine would have covers of them, and they had like a celebration celebrating 2,000 years of the Iranian Empire, and like the Queen actually of the UK didn't go because the King of Iran considered himself the King of Kings, and so
so there was a bit of a scuffle between the two of who was more
important. Exactly. But like I think Princess Margaret went, and like. They were saying, there was a documentary about this event, but they were saying all the most important leaders of the whole world, enemies, were having dinner together in Iran to celebrate the 2,000-year celebration. So at that time, these people were like the best of the best, and people respected the country. And so she's continued to be my muse, and her style is like impeccable. And so like a couple years ago, we did this dress, or I designed this dress with Nazanin Bunyadi, who's this amazing actress, who's also Iranian, and it was to celebrate it was called the Freedom Dress, and would that mean freedom of expression, freedom of talking, and all of that, all of it. So we got the Queen of Iran to wear the dress, and she wore it, and she actually wore it on Christmas Day. So it was huge for me because it was like a huge Christmas present. We had sent this dress to her like in probably November, October, and she wore it on Christmas Day, and it meant the world because, you know, there's like those people that you never know if you're going to ever meet because they're nearing the end of their life. Like
Yes.
Karl Lagerfeld or they're all in their 80s, 90s, and you never
Yes.
know if you're going to have any impact or like any relationship with them.
Yes.
And so for her to wear one of my pieces was huge because it was like she's a symbol of freedom in Iran in a way and around the world. So it meant a lot.
That is so incredible. Like I'm so blown away by that for so many different levels. To just because there's moments that we just have to appreciate that you feel like you've made it. Like that transform your life. Are there other things that you're hoping for? Do you have some current muses that you're
definitely wanting to dress? Well, we just hired a great PR firm in January, so hopefully things are coming.
Okay, good.
But like Kate Blanchett is like a huge muse. I think she's so chic. Who else? Rihanna, Beyonce. Oh my God, if Beyonce wore my clothes, I would literally pass out.
Hometown girl.
She is a hometown
Miss
girl.
Faye.
But yeah, there's a lot of new muses that I have. Lauren Santo Domingo, I love.
Moda operandi.
Yeah, she's so chic.
So chic. So, and we were talking before we were on camera about Truman Capote's feud and about his swans.
Yeah.
And that, like, looking to the styles of these women who still look incredible. Like, I'm obsessed with the fashion. I would wear anything I saw any of them wearing today.
1,000%. If you could get your hands on the old Givenchy or the old Chanel, I would die.
Yes. So tell us a little bit about how you look to the past but make it feel modern. Like, how does that, because, and then you have to, I guess for you, you're not having to do resort, but like to come up every year with something new.
Yeah.
But then we're talking about having some, I guess, it's not a capsule. What are the traditional pieces that you consistently do called?
Like our core.
Your core. Okay.
Yeah. I would say, so we'd only do 2 collections a year.
Okay.
I personally, I think that's super sustainable because sustainable for a lot of different reasons. Sustainable for my mind, sustainable for our clients' pockets, sustainable because I don't think people even need that many pieces of clothing, you know? And whenever we're designing a collection, my collections are on the smaller side, but they're like 100 pieces per season. Okay. So like designing 400 pieces per year sounds like crazy. I'm like, and even in that 100 that we do per season, we probably cut like 50, and that's what people end up buying are those like 50 pieces out of that 100-piece collection. Okay. So I just don't think it's...
Oh, Grace Kelly's coming to see us.
I love it. I love it. So yeah, it's like, I personally think designing 2 collections a year is enough, and I also think it allows me to develop something new each season because if you're constantly running and trying to figure out the new, what's the next, it's exhausting. Even designing 2 collections a year, it's exhausting in a way, you know. By the time I show my collection and then we show it to the buyers and the press and then we show it to the clients, that's like another 3 months, and I have to like digest everything, all their critiques and what they think of the collection and try to come up with the new. I've like 4 months is not enough to like come up with new things, you know. That's
right, because you've invested so much energy into making something so incredible, and then you want the feedback and to know where the holes are or where
how can we improve.
But like, I don't know, I'm wearing your pieces. I don't know if this is spring, summer,
that's core,
or winter,
you know?
fall.
It's all of it.
And I love that. And hi, Grace Kelly. Speaking of our muse, she is our little muse at the Vintage Contessa, she's our mascot.
I love it.
But let's talk about the jacket, because I love the sleeves. I love that it comes in at the waist.
Yeah.
I love the way let's talk a little bit about how
The process.
the process.
So this is called our Sabrina blazer, and we have done it every single season.
Like this puff sleeve is just.
It's so feminine, you know.
It is.
So it's part of our core. Whenever we designed it, we had no intention of it being in our core. It was just like.
But it happens.
It just happens. You just figure out what sells and what doesn't sell and what people want more of. And so this was part of our fall 2020 collection, right before COVID. And I loved tailoring because of the tailoring shop my grandfather opened. I was like immersed in that idea of tailoring and a blazer and a suit. You know, I love that idea because I think back then you wore the suit, well, you wore the pants and the jacket all in one. But I think now in a modern wardrobe, it's a blazer is like the little polish you add to any outfit that just brings it to full completion in a way. So I'd always wanted to create blazers, and that season I think we created like 2 or 3 blazers, and this one was inspired by like the blouson sleeve and mixing those 2 contrasting ideas, because a blazer is super masculine with a like peak lapel. It's like all very masculine attributes. And then I feel like a blouson sleeve is very feminine and dainty. So I was like, how can we combine the 2? And this was the fruit of that thought. And so we designed it and we made it in one fabric. We made it in this like leopard jacquard that I
have the leopard jacquard.
You have the original. And so
because leopard is a neutral.
It is a neutral. And so
Valerie Dittner and I talked a lot about that.
It's true.
I mean, now I guess we're even looking at so many animal prints in general.
Yeah,
and people are
all neutral. I even think like specific colors that maybe aren't like thought of as neutral, like a burgundy is super neutral. Even like an olive green is super neutral. You know, those are things that are cores in your closet that you can keep year round. But yeah, that's how we created the blazer, and people ended up responding to it. And then the next season I made it in a solid fabric, and that ended up working, and we made it again, and people just keep on ordering it from us, and it's something that they love. And you also have another one of our core items, which is our Greg coat, which is convertible.
Yes.
So those are pieces that I don't ever design them to be classics, but people respond to it and people want it in different colors, and so it ends up being a classic. That's the only way. Yeah, that's the way it ends up happening.
I feel like the trench is so big this year, even
it definitely
more so,
is.
but it's being done in so many different fabrics. Like yours
is like a silk and wool, but
yes.
The traditional is like a cotton gabardine, but you can do it like
the Burberry is
the classic.
Yes.
But then you can do it even like a light like silk fabric, and that could be like a really slouchy trench coat. You can do it in so many different ways. So,
and then let's talk about the dress, because I love the dress. Where you do a lot of great slip dresses.
Yeah,
I think that's you make them more forgiving because of the way they kind of gather.
Yeah, so
and I think that helps a lot.
This is a story. I feel like, so basically I had designed this dress, and this was I think spring like 19 or something. No, spring 20 I think it was. And I had designed a dress that I came back from the factory and I didn't love it. I was like, let me just cut it up. And that's how this dress came to be. I cut it up and then started adding like a bunch of ruching. And,
the ruching I think is forgiving.
That's how this dress came to be.
Interesting.
It was like a midnight project when the collection was done, and I was like not feeling something, and I was like, let me just change it up.
And so your mom is quite stylish.
Yeah.
Do you put her in most of the pieces, like growing up? Was that or did you have a girlfriend that you would put it on? Or?
So basically for me, I was like, whenever I started, or whenever I was inspired, I would force my mom to go to Neiman's with me, and I would be like, try everything on. I want you to try this. I want you, and she would be like, that's not going to look good on me. And
she would, like me, is short.
Yeah, she's more petite
more petite. So it's not like she was this tall waist like model.
And she has curves, and you know, and some of the times it didn't work, and some of the times it worked, and so I was like looking at all these silhouettes. And so then I started to see what would look good on different people. And then whenever I was designing my own collection, I would like force my mom into things. I was like, just wear it. Or I would ask like one of my girlfriends from high school, I'd be like, throw it on, let's go to a party or whatever. And now whenever I'm designing, I have a great team of amazing stylish women that even, including my mom, I'm still like asking her to throw things on. Or when we do a fitting, we have an amazing fit model that we just found this last year that is like the most meticulous woman I've ever met. She's like, Amir, the shoulder is like a quarter off. You have to move it a quarter, or like, and she has been fitting, she's fit for Ralph Lauren and Oscar and all the amazing brands. And so she has the same vocabulary. She knows the like fashion tailoring vocabulary. So she is like, whenever it's on her body, she's like, I think you need to like tilt the shoulder this way, or the crotch is a little, it's like half-inch too high, or the leg is twisting, or like she has all the words. So it's like about the people who wear them and giving us the feedback right then and there. So we even, Samantha on our team, before we even sell anything, she tries every single piece on in the collection so she knows how it feels. If she's like, this is not working, I think we should cut this item and let's maybe put it for the next season and let's work on it some more. So there's all this like feedback that we're getting into like right in the moment. So
I love that. And what I love about this is it's got the high slit here, but then it's covered here.
Yeah, definitely. You don't want to show everything.
Right, but it's like a balance between what you're showing.
1,000%. Yeah, and at women, I feel like unless you're really just going all out there and showing everything, but I think most women do want to look sexy, but they're also, they want to be covered, you know, they want to show one thing at a time. So you have to be cognizant of what you're showing. You know, you can't show everything, but you also want to, it's like a line that you have to be balanced.
And in your culture, did women have to cover their heads?
Well, now they're forced to, but back then they didn't.
Back then it was not part of the...
Yeah, people were, it's like more of an Islamic thing.
Okay.
But back then, like, yes, Islam is like the main religion in Iran, but in the 1960s, 70s, it wasn't enforced. You know, it wasn't the Islamic Republic of Iran. It was just Iran, and Islam was the main religion, you know? So it wasn't forced upon people. But now, even now, like, people don't want to wear the head covering. They want to show their skin. Yes. Women want to, like, even women in Iran, they want to look sexy. They want to look feminine. And so I think it's just when you're forced to do something.
Anytime you're forced, it's not fun.
Like whenever the girls in high school, when they were forced to have the skirts that went above their...
Now Episcopal, like, it's like here. You're
exactly.
Like, pull that down.
Yeah, whenever you're forced to do something, you don't want to do it.
I know, it's crazy. Okay, so your line, I was not able to come because I was sick along with so many other Houstonians, but your line, you have some really interesting fabrics.
Yeah.
And the movement, the texture, let's talk about that inspiration.
That's not even the one. I think the one you're talking about, the fall.
Oh, it's fall. That's what you printed. That's what you posted online, but it's not out
It's not out yet.
Okay.
So yeah, I think this was, now we're showing the spring collection.
Okay.
We've always been balancing this idea of...
I know. It's like, what collection are we on?
Exactly. And I think... That was
confusing to the buyer. It's
all of it.
Yes.
And so we're now, spring is in stores and we have it online. So we have our full size run that you can buy and take home today, which is fabulous. We've been trying to implement that so our clients don't have to wait so long.
I know. We want
instant
now.
Exactly. But so spring was inspired by this idea of nostalgia. I had gone to Iran with my grandmother, and it was right before she had passed away, and she had Alzheimer's. So I was like, there's only a couple more times that I can probably get this information out of her, so let me do it now. So we went to her hometown, and she showed me her where she grew up, and
because she remembered all that.
Yeah, she remembered.
It was just the recent.
Yeah, it was.
She wasn't
exactly. So I was like, let me just get all of this information out. So the house that she grew up in is now a UNESCO property, which is like the most important, but like the Louvre is a UNESCO property. Like it's like
Wow.
all the super amazing architectural histories in the world.
Wow.
So we went, and this house has been photographed so many times, but the room she took me in I had never seen before, and it was a really, all the other rooms are like full of, it's like all the walls are painted in like motifs and floral motifs, but this room was very bare and was white, but the ceiling had these mirrors on them. So like that's how the inspiration. It was like all geometric mirror tiling on the ceiling. So that's how the inspiration came to be. And we were looking at different rugs and mashing it all together, and so that's the spring collection. But with fall,
and it was designed. So you designed the designs.
Yeah, all the prints.
The prints. Sorry.
Are all custom for us. We work with amazing print artists, or sometimes I do it. But they're all, you'll never find it anywhere else.
Interesting. And how many of those?
So we do probably like 2 prints a season.
Okay.
So, and each print maybe has 2 colorways. So yeah, every season we do 2, and for that season we called it the Kashan print because that was the name of her hometown. Yeah, and so then everything else trickled from that. We made an amazing lace that had the same kind of motif, and we worked with amazing tailors to create geometric looking suiting, and so it all trickled down.
And I haven't seen that you've made a lot of caftans.
Yeah, we just made our first this last season.
Because you mentioned a caftan earlier.
Yeah, so we made it's called our Tata caftan, which is, every piece is named after someone in my life, and you actually have something coming up for fall that's named the Danae.
Did.
I did. But I'll share that with you later. But yeah, we have a Tata caftan, and so it's using that same print, and it's super like glamorous with lots of sweep, so it's really beautiful.
Wow.
Yeah.
I love a caftan. I struggle because I like long and flowy, but Rob likes more form-fitting.
All the men do.
And I don't dress for him. I feel like I dress for women.
Yeah, exactly.
And gay men more than I dress for men. Yes. But I also like for him to think that I'm attractive.
Of
and
course,
they kind of think of a caftan as a moo-moo.
Yeah, trust me. But they're
so how do you balance that? Because I love the flow.
So we always have a belt with all of our caftans.
Okay,
it's removable, so you could wear it belted, or you can wear it flowy. But I think
of it like as a house dress of a woman.
Really? I think it also, I don't know if you can wear it everywhere. Like, I feel like it's more like a St. Bart's or like a Saint-Tropez. Exactly. Right. I think it's like that kind of thing. Or I think it's super beautiful for like evening, like a super flowy, like with a huge sweep with gorgeous like diamond earrings or something.
Yes.
But I do think it depends on how you style it too. You can style it really evening, or you can style it really.
Yes. And when I say house dress, I mean like 1970s Palm Springs.
That's the house
that
dress.
Kind of house.
Exactly.
The one story with the sprawling.
Exactly.
Meeting them at the door with the martini house
exactly.
dress.
And that's the world I live in too.
Exactly. In my head.
Exactly. So, but yeah, I think it's like the way you style it and the way you put it together. Because it is it's not like it covers everything.
Right.
So it just is the way you style it, or how you hem it, if it shows a little bit of ankle or.
And do you come down here and have a tie, or is it?
Depends.
Okay.
The one that we have has like a little placket and a collar.
Yeah. I feel like that at least has some décolletage.
Exactly, so you can see something.
Some skin.
Exactly. Rob will be happy for that.
Okay, good.
But yeah, I think it's just the way you style it and how you bring it up or make it more casual.
And then it seemed like for fall that there was a mixture of like metallics with crushed velvets with a lot of texture.
Lots of texture. So I was looking at this tribe in Iran called the Qashqai tribe, and they're known for like mixing and matching like every single fabric, every single texture like in the world. And they're not doing that on purpose. Or maybe they are, but they're not like thinking, oh, I'm styling myself. This is like ancient ways of dressing. And so they just put everything together. And I was like, I want to try to mimic that kind of styling. I was like, let's try new things. Let's put things that maybe you don't think should go together because you never know what's going to work. So when we were styling the collection, we were putting knits over suits. We were putting, like you were saying, like our crystal embroidery with this amazing like leopard, green, burgundy, jacquard. We were like trying all the different options. And so this season was definitely about trying new things.
Incredible.
Yeah.
So Palm Springs, we were talking about that before. You're going there.
Palm Beach.
Palm Beach, sorry.
Yeah,
not
no.
Palm. I'm thinking back to the 70s house in Palm Springs. Sorry.
Exactly.
Confused on what coast I'm on. But I was saying, I went there. So there's this pocket of women from New York that are moving there that are still like very Upper East Side kind of style, but then there's also this Lily Pulitzer.
No, definitely. There's all kinds of
girly,
floral.
Yes.
Floral all the way.
So, and you're definitely the Madison Avenue.
Yeah, exactly. It was actually funny because we had Bergdorf Goodman come and see the collection yesterday, and they were telling us that their florals are not selling at all.
Yeah, it's like pick your audience.
Yeah.
It's just not.
They were saying like Oscar's florals are not selling.
Oscars.
Carolina's florals are not selling. So it's interesting to hear.
I do find great pieces in New York on sale
Yeah,
that are lots
not
of prints
selling.
that
Exactly.
haven't sold, where in Texas it's gone in the beginning at full price.
So maybe that's the Texas women love their florals. I guess get it in New York, so it's going to be on sale.
That's so funny.
You never know. Yeah, but we never do florals necessarily.
Right.
I try to stay away from florals because Oscar and Carolina.
It's already done.
It's already done. Exactly. So I
don't need to repeat that.
Exactly. So I try to come up with our own versions of prints. But because I worked at a company, Adam Lippis was known for their florals.
Yes.
So when I left there, I was like, I don't want to do any florals. So we find our way to do it, to do these amazing prints.
And I haven't bought his pieces, but I've admired them. And he seems to be focused on the suit also.
Yeah, he has a couple tailoring pieces.
Yes. And of course, my favorite silhouette I normally go with is the fitted on the top and the flare on the bottom.
We have a good dress for you for fall that's a
really?
fit and flare,
Okay, good.
But yeah, he does a lot of fit and flares as well, and all the prints and jacquards and all that stuff. So
interesting.
Yeah.
So any other things that you want to share with us? Any new things coming up?
Yeah, there's I think 2024 is definitely going to be the year for us. We have a full new team. We hired an amazing guy who actually came from Oscar. He was their design director for 7 years. His name is Chad, and so we hired him. So we're like, I think this year we're really like hounding down and focusing on how we can make the product even better. We hired an amazing wholesale director, so she's now focusing on new stores that we can be in.
I mean, Bergdorf, that could be huge.
It's not confirmed yet, but
how does that work with stores? Because I've heard it's hard for designers, that a lot of stores for a while say, oh, you can put your pieces in, and then at the end of the season, whatever's left, we give back to you.
So that's consignment. It's awful. But
it is awful. It can kill a brand.
Exactly. So with the stores, usually depends on your agreement.
Right.
But if they want to test out a brand, they'll do like consignment or a trunk show. And then if they believe in the brand, they'll usually end up buying it. This year, a lot of budgets are let down because everyone's afraid of the election. I don't think so, because I feel like everyone's still shopping. And then with stores like Bergdorf Goodman, there's only one store, so square footage is an issue for them.
Oh, yes.
So one designer needs to go out for a new designer to come in. So we're just waiting for our slot to be open, So that's how, usually whenever you design the collection, you send the buyers the lookbook and the line sheets so they know what you're trying to sell them. They come to see the collection, and then they decide if it's right for their store and for their audience. So.
And you're not doing fashion shows in New York. It's
We're
almost like, it's so expensive to do.
Oh my God.
It's not really about even the buyers buying from you.
No.
It's become
it's so expensive. It costs like $400,000 to $500,000 to even put a show on, with the venue, the models, the makeup artists, the hair, the makeup, everything.
The team.
to put it together, the producers, all of that costs so much money. So
Wow.
we're still so small. So we're going to get there hopefully one day. But
Oh, so is that the goal?
yeah, definitely it's the goal. But it comes with time.
I completely agree. And being bigger doesn't mean it's better, and it
Yeah.
doesn't mean your business is profitable for you either.
No, exactly.
And to grow in an incremental way. And then you're able to also stay true to the people that have already become connected to your brand.
Exactly. So we do like private appointments. We do our luncheons in Houston. We do luncheons all over the U.S. or do pop-ups in Colorado and all that thing.
Oh,
But
that's right, because you've done some Aspen things.
yeah,
there.
so we try to go to where our client is at the moment, and there's always little kinks that we're trying to fix. You know, for the longest time because it costs so much money to create stock. The only way possible for us to sell clothing was to do trunk shows and sell through pre-order. So it was like trying to find the balance of how early is it to show the collection, because when let's say we just showed fall right now, we want to start doing trunk shows for fall, but that means the client will have to wait like 4 to 6 months to receive their clothing, because we're not, as Chad, who works for us, says, we're not a custom tailor, Amir. We are a fashion brand, which means when you place your order, let's say you're buying the new blazer of this season, we want to make 20 of them so that the price of the blazer goes down and we're not paying sample price.
Okay.
So, because then the price of the garment would be 2 to 3 times more.
And how do you even know how many sizes in each color that you make?
That's a lot of meetings right there. Yeah, it's a gamble.
Throw the dice, right?
Yeah. And it's kind of funny because so we have in the past done trunk shows. So you were buying a piece and you were pre-ordering it. So we knew that Danae wanted this leopard coat.
Right.
So it's funny because we do have new clients constantly, but we have our loyal following. So it's a balance, because you're like, well, Danae bought this blazer and this person bought this blazer and maybe another 5 other people bought this blazer. Do we think there's an audience that
for this blazer that they'll buy this year?
Yeah, will they buy, or will other people also buy that blazer?
Because then they were wearing it and
so it's all a balance, you know.
It's so crazy. It's something we don't have to deal with here. I mean, people say to me, why haven't you designed? I'm like, oh my God.
Trust me, that's why I even say, like, if you, whenever you, like, to fashion students, like, it's hard, you know? Because
it's not just that you designed it well and that the person that bought it loved it.
Well, no, it's like the fit. It's like the sizing has to be correct, you know? Like, it might look great on the model, but no one is a model body. You have to fit it. You have to make sure it fits well on, I wouldn't say a normal size body, because no one is normal, but like on a more standard proportion.
Yes.
And then you have to work with a good grader that will grade the size to the correct, like go from a size 2 to a size 8. You need to make sure the proportions.
It's incremental.
It's all incremental, and so you have to make sure that goes correctly, and then you have to make sure.
And then the sizing is interesting because I feel like your sizes are more like the Oscar de la Renta, Carolina Herrera versus J. Crew, which I'm maybe a size extra small or small, and for you, I'm an 8 sometimes.
Because it depends, and like that's the thing. Like European sizing is even smaller.
Exactly.
So
and they don't have the chest that these Texas
women
ladies
have. Exactly.
So styling for a New York woman could even be different than a Texas woman.
Because every woman has a different body.
Yes.
So, and that's the thing. It's like my biggest advice to people is alterations.
Yes.
Because, like, let's say your bust is bigger, so you might need to buy a size 8 for the bust and the waist, because your waist might be tiny. And that's the thing. It's like Chad also says we're not a custom tailor, so we're not. Yes, we do sometimes free alterations and all of those kind of things, but every woman's body is so different than the other, and we have to find like the medium in between.
Right. Exactly.
All of it. So it's like maybe you have a bigger waist and no bust, you know? So you have to buy for your waist, and then you have to alter your bust. So everyone is so different. So it's like trying to find the middle ground.
So is there a change with people's sizes going down because of the new weight loss trends?
I will say,
because I might be a little smaller than I was last year.
Trust me.
Right?
Yeah.
Are you seeing it with your...
Yeah, a lot of our...
Right?
I think the biggest problem is with the pre-orders.
Yeah, because they're like, oops, this doesn't
measured
fit
them.
anymore.
Yeah, and they're like, I don't know why this is 3 sizes too big. I'm like,
you're like,
ask
you know
yourself.
why.
You're like, I didn't buy a size 10. I'm like, well, girl, when you bought this, you were a size 10. Now you're a size 6. It's not my problem. And I think that's we're trying, because of all these weight loss things, we're having to rethink our free alterations. Exactly. Because changing a hem is different than making it 3 sizes smaller. You know, so.
Oh my God, that is so funny. Oh my God, I love it. Yeah. All right. Yeah. Well, I could sit here and talk to you forever, but I find that you're the way that I stay really connected to a brand consistently is that I can keep the pieces in my wardrobe and I don't want to move them out.
Exactly.
And I find that with yours.
Well, that makes me so happy.
I'm super excited. Maybe you can even call it the Contessa instead of the Danae.
Well, yeah, whatever you want it.
But I am so flattered. That's
of
actually
course.
like was not even on a wish list in my life. But that is something incredible to have a piece. But I applaud the way you're growing and that you're doing it in a way that's manageable, because I feel like sometimes when brands grow a lot, you can leave behind the people.
Not even you leave behind the people that supported you at the beginning. But
because you're just so big and you can only do so much. And that's what's so hard with growth.
No, 1,000%. It gets harder. But I think with growth also great things happen too, you know,
absolutely.
It's the middle ground, you know.
Yes.
I feel like with our growth, we were able to afford someone like Chad that can come in and be like, and fix the fit, you know, like.
Because that's what I can't do my job without Danette. I can't do my job without the team. And I'm only, and when a team member's out and you're doing you only have the capacity. And I found that for me, I couldn't even go out. I couldn't see people because I was so exhausted by the physicality of doing
owning your own business. Yeah. So I think it's like it's the mixture. It's like
then you can be talking to people and you can be doing podcasts and you
exactly, or I can be traveling and going to different cities to do trunk shows
because you're not in the nitty gritty.
Exactly. But I do think like for us at the moment, it's like regaining that trust, because maybe at the beginnings we had all these little kinks, and it's being able to be like, let me try Amir again. He's evolved. And so I think it's like that is our biggest hurdle right now. So that's what we're working on for 2024 is regaining that trust of all these women that have shopped from us before, and just making sure they know that their feedback has been listened to, you know. And that with growth is that's the only way you can grow is through feedback and through
absolutely
perfecting it.
If somebody has an experience that they don't like, here I'm saying, you know, what can I do? What was it that went wrong? How can we make it up to you? Tell us what that experience was, and then trying to modify things as a team. But like for now, we're by appointment only because we feel like that way we can be the best service. Yeah, because you have to do so much back of the house stuff for the other things you have going on that you can't be in the showroom all the time meeting new people. No, trust me, it's hard. Because everyone, doesn't matter how much they spend, they are the princess. Yes, and they want the attention and they want the response. And exactly. And I think when you're in luxury, that's a fair expectation. No, for sure. So it's just a struggle how to get it all balance, done. Yeah, I know. That's the biggest struggle. So if I haven't responded to you, I'm sorry. No, it wasn't me. I'm not saying you, but I'm just saying in general, like, my attention span, even when I get home from work,
Like last night, we had appointments all days with buyers. Like you're mentally exhausted. You don't even want to look at your phone anymore.
No.
All I want to do is snuggle with my dog Virgo and watch some TV and then go to bed.
We are like completely addicted to
Yeah.
Netflix. We sit on the couch with Grace Kelly with our blankets.
It's
and we
all about the
watch.
balance, you know?
It is, yeah.
So it's just, and with a great team, you can give some of those responsibilities to other people, you
Right.
know? So it's just the balance of finding what to do and when.
Yeah. Well, amen to that.
Yeah.
Well, I'm so excited we finally got to sit
I
down
know,
and
me too.
talk about all this. It's truly incredible to see your commitment. And I feel like your commitment isn't in a self-serving way. I feel like you're an artist
Yeah.
creating art that people appreciate, and that it's incredible. And what I say to anybody trying to chase their dream and make your dream come true is just, if your heart's in the right place and your work ethic is there,
Yeah.
the sky is the limit, and we live in a country that enables us that
To do,
opportunity.
yeah, what we...
And as angry as people are about the things that are imperfect here, it's still truly the greatest
Yeah, it really is.
country in the world to start
Because-
and run a business.
And those people, I feel like, don't have experience with other places. So to put yourself in someone else's shoes and be grateful for what we have here, because it really is, we're really lucky.
We are. All right, guys. Living the authentic life.
I
Amir
love it.
Taghi.